The vocative case is the case used for a noun that identifies a person being addressed or, occasionally, the determiners of that noun. A vocative expression is an expression of direct address where the identity of the party spoken to is set forth expressly within a sentence. For example, in the sentence, "I don't know John." John is a vocative expression that indicates the party being addressed, as opposed to the sentence, "I don't know John," where John is the direct object of the verb know. Historically, the vocative case was an element of the Indo-European system of cases, and existed in Latin, Sanskrit, and Classical Greek. Many modern Indo-European languages have lost the vocative case. Many, however, retain it, including the Baltic languages and most Slavic languages. Some linguists argue that the vocative form is not a case but a special form of nouns not belonging to any case, since vocative expressions are not related syntactically to other words in sentences. The vocative case in Indo-European languages. Comparison of Indo-European languages. Distinct vocative forms are assumed to have existed in all early Indo-European languages, and they have survived in some. Take, for example, the Indo-European word for wolf in various languages. Notes on notation. The elements separated with hyphens denote the stem, the so-called thematic vowel of the case, and the actual suffix. In Latin, e.g., the nominative case is lupus and the vocative case is lupe, whereas the accusative case is lupum. The asterisk before the Proto-Indo-European words means that they are theoretical reconstructions, not attested in a written source. The symbol indicates a consonant serving as a vowel. All final consonants have been lost in Proto-Slavic, so both the nominative and vocative Old Church Slavonic forms do not have true endings, only reflexes of the old thematic vowels. Note how the vocative ending changes the stem consonant in Old Church Slavonic. This is caused by the so-called first palatalization. Most modern Slavic languages that retain the vocative case have altered the ending to avoid this change, e.g., Bulgarian occurs far more frequently than Baltic languages. Lithuanian and Lithuanian, the form that a given noun takes depends on its declension class and, sometimes, on its gender. There have been several changes in history, the last being the I ending formed between the 18th and 19th centuries. The older forms are listed under. Some nouns of the E and A stems declensions are stressed differently. Ext, torta, quote. In addition, nouns of V stems have an ablaut of long vowel E in nominative and short vowel E in vocative. In pronunciation, E is close midvowel, and E is open midvowel. Celtic languages, Goidelic languages. Irish. The vocative case in Irish operates in a similar fashion to Scottish Gaelic. The principal marker is the vocative particle a, which causes lenition of the initial letter. In the singular there is no special form, except for first declension nouns. These are masculine nouns that end in a broad consonant, which is made slender to build the singular vocative. Adjectives are also lenited. In many cases this means that masculine vocative expressions resemble the genitive and feminine vocative expressions resemble the nominative. The vocative plural is usually the same as the nominative plural except, again, for first declension nouns. In the standard language, first declension nouns show the vocative plural by adding a. In the spoken dialects, the vocative plural often has the same form as the nominative plural of the dative plural Scottish Gaelic. The vocative case in Scottish Gaelic follows the same basic pattern as Irish. The use of the vocative, aside from literary usage, is mostly confined to personal names, where it is obligatory. The vocative case causes lenition of the initial consonant of nouns. In addition, masculine nouns are slenderized if possible. Also, the particle a is placed before the noun unless it begins with a vowel. Examples of the use of the vocative personal names. The name Hamish is just the English spelling of Shearmay, and thus is actually a Gaelic vocative. Likewise, the name Mary is an English spelling of Mary. Manx. The basic pattern is similar to Irish and Scottish. The vocative is confined to personal names, in which it is common. Foreign names are not used in the vocative. The vocative case causes lenition of the initial consonant of names. It can be used with the particle y. The name Bwari is actually the Manx vocative of Moiri. Brittonic languages. Welsh marks the vocative by lenition of the initial consonant of the word, with no obligatory particle. Despite its use being less common nowadays, it is nevertheless still used in formal address. The phrase "fonedigen a bonedigesor" is heard often, with the initial consonant of bonedigen undergoing a soft mutation. The same is true of Gyphilian, where Cyphilian has been lenited. Cornish has retained the vocative case, with the particle the same as in Scottish Gaelic and Irish a, which causes the second state mutation in the following word. As in Manx, foreign names are often not lenited after the vocative particle a. Breton seems to have lost the vocative. Germanic languages. English. Modern English lacks a formal vocative case. English commonly uses the nominative case for vocative expressions, but sets them off from the rest of the sentences with pauses as interjections. Two common examples of vocative expressions in English are the phrases Mr. President and Madam Chairwoman. Some traditional texts use Jesu, the Latin vocative form of Jesus. One of the best-known examples of this is Jesu, joy of man's desiring. Historically, and in poetic or rhetorical speech, vocative phrases in English were prefaced by the word o. This is often seen in the King James Version of the Bible, for example, O ye of little faith. Another example is the recurrent use of the phrase, O best beloved, by Rudyard Kipling in his Just So stories. This use of O may be considered a form of clitic, and should not be confused with the interjection no. However, as the Oxford English Dictionary points out, O and O were originally used interchangeably, with the advent of O as a written interjection. However, O is the preferred modern spelling in vocative phrases. See also apostrophe. German dialects. In some German dialects, e.g., in the Ripuarian dialect of Cologne, it is common to use the article before a person's name. In the vocative phrase then the article is, as in Venetian, omitted. Thus the determiner precedes nouns in all cases but the vocative. So, any noun not preceded by an article or other determiner is in vocative case. It is most often used to address someone or some group of living beings, usually in conjunction with an imperative construct. It can also be used to address dead matter as if the matter could react, or to tell something astonishing or just realized, such as in a sentence like, your nose is dripping. Colonian examples: Du hast der Paul, komm ins Erver. There is the Paul, come over. Och de leven kaffepot, de bes Joe drop. Oh dear coffee pot, you are dripping. Pard, Jude lauf, und I pard John lauf. Horses run away, and the horses are running away. Icelandic. The vocative case generally does not appear in Icelandic, though a few words retain an archaic vocative declension from Latin, such as the word Jesus, which is Jesu in the vocative. This comes from Latin, as the Latin word for Jesus is Jesus and the vocative of that word is Jesu. This is also the case in traditional English. Example: Jesus elsketh thig. Jesus loves you. O Jesu, frelsari okkar. O Jesus, our Savior. The native words sona and vina also sometimes appear in the shortened forms son and van in vocative phrases. Additionally, adjectives in vocative phrases are always weakly declined, whereas elsewhere with proper nouns, they would usually be declined strongly. Carvina a gully batri. A dear friend is better than gold. Ka Erivan Segthuemi Kutar Nu Sogu. Dear friend, tell me a story. Swedish. The dialect spoken in and around Gothenburg in the western parts of Sweden includes a rare example of vocative. Do is commonly used to get someone's attention when addressing one another. It is the vocative form of du, meaning you, in Swedish. Example: Du har en snygg tröja. You have a nice sweater. Du snygg tröja. Hey, you nice sweater. Greek. In Classical Greek, the vocative case is usually identical to the nominative case, with the exception of masculine second declension nouns and third declension nouns. Second declension masculine nouns have a regular vocative ending in epsilon. Third declension nouns that are monosyllabic and end in sigma have vocatives identical to nominatives, otherwise the stem serves as the vocative. Irregular vocatives exist as well, such as nom. Sigma omega kappa rho alpha tau eta sigma VOC, sigma omega kappa rho alpha tau epsilon sigma. In modern Greek, as in ancient Greek, second declension masculine nouns have a vocative ending in epsilon. However, in practice the accusative case is often used as a vocative in informal speech, e.g. epsilon lambda alpha epsilon delta omega chi rho eta sigma tau omicron. Come here, Christos, instead of chi rho eta sigma tau epsilon. Other nominal declensions employ the same form in the vocative as the accusative in formal or informal speech, with the exception of learned katharevusa forms inherited from ancient Greek, e.g. lambda lambda eta nu, which are homologous in the nominative and vocative forms instead. Indo-Iranian languages. Kurdish has a vocative case. For instance, in the Kurdish dialect of Kurmanji, this case is created by adding the suffix of o at the end of masculine words and the e suffix at the end of feminine ones. Examples: instead of the vocative case, forms of address may be created using the grammatical particles la and lo. Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, the vocative has the same form as the nominative, except in the singular. In vowel stem nouns, the h of the nominative is omitted and the stem vowel may be altered. A and I become e, u becomes o, long I and u become short, r becomes r. Consonant stem nouns have no ending in the vocative. The vocative form is the same as the nominative except in non-neuter singular. Slavic languages. Bulgarian. Unlike other Slavic languages except Macedonian, Bulgarian has lost case marking on nouns. However, Bulgarian preserves vocative forms. Traditional male names usually have a vocative ending. More recent names and foreign names may have a vocative form, but it is not used. Sounds unusual to native speakers. Vocative phrases like have almost completely been replaced by corresponding common case forms, especially in official writing. Proper nouns usually also have vocative forms, even though they are used less frequently. The following are examples of proper nouns that are frequently used in vocative. Vocative case forms also normally exist for female given names, except for forms that end in. These are considered rude, and are normally avoided. Exception of female kinship terms, whose vocative is always used. Check. In Czech, the vocative differs from the nominative in masculine and feminine nouns in singular. Two exceptions, where vocative and nominative case are undistinguishable, are mentioned in the following table. In informal speech, it is common that the male surname is in nominative when addressing men, e.g. Payne Novak instead of Payne Novaku. Teachers address pupils by first names in vocative, students by surnames mostly in vocative. First names in vocative are a possible alternative depending on individual teachers. Using the appropriate vocative is strongly recommended in the official and written styles. Polish. In Polish, the vocative is formed as follows. Feminine nouns usually take o, except those those that end in cia, cia, and dazia, which take u, and those that end in sc, which take I. Masculine nouns generally follow the complex pattern of the locative case, with the exception of a handful of words such as bogbos, oichekajse and klopis. Neuter nouns and all plural nouns are the same as in the nominative case. Here are some examples. No two forms of vocative of Czech, latter conforming with Old Church Slavonic, is considered poetical today. The nominative is increasingly used in place of the vocative when addressing people with the proper names. In other contexts the vocative remains prevalent. It is used to address an individual using his/her function, title, other attribute, family role, pani doctors, pani prizi, pribi washza pozno, pliwaku, sinus mamo, tato, after adjectives, demonstrative pronouns, and possessive pronouns nie rozumi shem nie meryu droga bashu, to address an individual in an offensive or condescending manner, e.g. Zamnijsi, Pajaku, Kos Egapish, Idiotu, Nieznasedzi, Arani, to Niepish Spadaj Visniaku. After Tai Klamchachu. Set expressions, e.g. Matko, Bos, Kloppy. The vocative is also often employed in affectionate and endearing contexts such as Kochimci, Chrisiu, or Teskniazartoba, Meryo. In addition, the vocative form sometimes takes the place of the nominative in informal conversations, e.g. Josio Pristal instead of Josio Pristal, yet the nominative may take the place of the vocative as well, e.g. Anya Chods 2, instead of Aniu Chods 2. Russian historical vocative. The historical Slavic vocative has been lost in Russian, and currently can only be found in certain cases of archaic expressions. Several of those expressions, mostly of religious origin, are common in colloquial Russian, often also used in expression, and which can also be expressed as. Vocative is also used in prayers, e.g. These expressions are used to express strong emotions, and are often combined. More examples of historical vocative can be found in other biblical quotes that are sometimes used as proverbs, e.g. Vocative forms are also used in modern Church Slavonic. The Patriarch and bishops of the Russian Orthodox Church are addressed as. In the latter case the vocative form is often also incorrectly used as nominative to refer to bishops and the patriarchs. Neovocative. In modern colloquial Russian, given names and a small family of terms often take a special, shortened form that some linguists consider a re-emerging vocative case. This form is applied only to given names and nouns that end in a and, which are optionally dropped in the vocative form. This is basically equivalent to, the only difference being that the former version suggests a positive personal, emotional bond between the speaker and the person being addressed. Names that end in acquire a soft sign, in this case, equals. In addition to given names, this form is often used with words like t and, which would be respectively shortened to t and. In plural this form is used with words such as. Such usage differs from historical vocative and is not related to such historical usage. Serbo-Croatian vocative case exists and is widely used. Milos, Milus, Masa, Mazo, Kovic, or Kovjek, Man, Koveche, or Kovjeche, Slovak. Until the end of the 1980s, the existence of a distinct vocative case in the Slovak language was recognized and taught at schools. Today the case is considered lost from the language, with only a few archaic examples of the original vocative remaining in religious, literary or ironic context, such as boem, bos, Christus m, Christ, pan m, pain, otecm, otce, clovic m, cloveche, clap m, clay, clipec m, Klapche, Jezizem, Jezisu, Prietelem, Prietlu, Bratem, Brato, Bratkuz, Sinem, Sinus, Sinku, Mamar F, Mamo, Zina F, Zino. In everyday use, the Czech vocative is sometimes retrofitted to certain words, such as Majsterem, Majster, Esiacute FM, Esiacute Fi, Svagor M, Svaga. Another stamp of vernacular vocative is emerging, presumably under the influence of the Hungarian language for certain family members of proper names, such as Otecm, Oci, Mamar F, Mami, Babka F, Babi, Palu M, Pali, Zusa F, Zuzi. Ukrainian has retained the vocative case mostly as it was in Common Slavic M, CF, F, FMM, FF, F, FFM, with some exceptions. However, FF, also used for loan words and foreign names M, and obligatory for all native names F. It also is applicable to patronymic Latin. In Latin, the form of the vocative case of a noun is often the same as the nominative. Exceptions include singular second declension nouns that end in us in the nominative case. An example would be the famous line from Shakespeare, A2, Brute, where brute is the vocative case and bruta would be the nominative case. Nouns that end in -us have distinct vocatives, but instead of the expected ending ie, they simply end with I. Thus, Julius becomes Julie and Phileas becomes Philly. This shortening does not shift the accent, so the vocative of Virgilius is Virgili, with accent on the first I, even though it is short. Nouns that end in aius and eius have vocatives that end in I or A, even though the I is consonantal in the stem. First and second declension adjectives also have distinct vocative forms in the masculine singular whenever the nominative ends in us, with the ending E. Adjectives that end in -us have vocatives in ie, thus the vocative of eximius is eximi. Nouns and adjectives that end in -eus do not follow the rules above. Mois forms the vocative irregularly as me, while deus does not have a distinct vocative and retains the form deus. My God, in Latin is thus me deus, though Jerome's Vulgate consistently uses deus mois as a vocative. Romance languages, Catalan and Portuguese use the personal article, but drop it in front of vocative forms. In Extremaduran and Fala, some post-tonical vowels open in vocative forms of nouns, but it is a new development that doesn't come from the Latin vocative case. French, like English, French sometimes uses a particle O to mark vocative phrases rather than by change to the form of the noun. A famous example is the title and first line of the Canadian national anthem, O Canada, which is a vocative phrase addressing Canada. Romanian. The vocative case in Romanian is partly inherited, occasionally causing other morphophonemic changes. Singular masculine, neuter, e as in o mule, quote, comma, biat, or biatul, quote, comma, var, vir, quote, comma, ion, singular feminine o as in sorrow, quote, comma, nebuno, quote, comma, destepto, often used sarcastically, oliano, quote, semicolon dot. Since there is no O vocative that end for any declension type in Latin, obviously these forms have been borrowed from Slavic. See corresponding Bulgarian forms. Plural, all genders. Law, as in frati, fratalaw, quote, comma, boylaw. Dome si domni, domnula si domnila, quote, dot. Often in formal speech the vocative simply copies the nominative, accusative form, even when it does have its own. This happens because the vocative is often perceived as very direct and thus can seem rude. Venetian has lost all case endings, as have most Romance languages. However, with feminine proper names the role of the vocative is played by the absence of the determiner I.e., the personal article l, which usually precedes feminine names in other situations, even in predicates. Masculine names and other nouns, on the other hand, rely solely on prosody to mark forms of address, and in predicative constructions, the vocative case in other languages. Arabic. Properly speaking, Arabic only has three cases, the nominative, accusative and genitive. However, a meaning similar to that conveyed by the vocative case in other languages is indicated by the use of the particle ya placed before a noun, inflected in the accusative case. In English translations, this is often translated literally as O instead of being omitted. Beijing Mandarin. In the Beijing dialect of Mandarin Chinese, when expressing strong feeling to someone, A is added to the word you address the one you are calling, and the A is stressed. The most common one is adding A to form a son's A, which means approximately, hey you nasty one. Georgian. In Georgian, the vocative case is used for addressing the second singular and plural persons. For the word roots that end with a consonant, the vocative case suffix is O, and for the words that end with a vowel the suffix for the vocative case is V, as it was in Old Georgian, but for some words it is considered archaic. For example, cats is the root for the word man. Quote, if one addresses someone with this word, it becomes catso. Adjectives are also declined in the vocative case. Just like nouns, consonant final stem adjectives take the suffix so in the vocative case, and the vowel final stems are not changed. Compare Lamazi Kali, beautiful woman, Lamazo Kalo, beautiful woman. In the second phrase, both the adjective and the noun are declined. The second singular and plural personal pronouns are also declined in the vocative case. Shenu and tkvenu in the vocative case become she and tkve, with the drop of the final n. Therefore, one could, for instance, say she lamazo kalo, you beautiful woman, with the declination of all the elements. Korean. The vocative case in Korean is commonly used with first names in casual situations. This is done by suffixing if the name ends in a consonant and if in a vowel. Is Mijin going home? Mijin, are you going home? What is Dongbai doing? Dongbai, what are you doing? Informal and somewhat archaic Korean words are suffixed with if they end in a vowel and if they end in a consonant. The use of these suffixes is similar to that of the Japanese. Thus would be translated as, boys, be ambitious.